Growing indoors with the Eco Garden House, we're going to talk about stressing your plants out to get more out of them, as well as changing up our hydroponic system to get cilantro. All that coming up right now. Sponsored by Eco Garden House. At last, an indoor greenhouse equipped with complete, easy lighting and watering systems. You can grow perfect organic produce and plants at your home all year round. Grow 24/7, 365. You now have no excuses. Welcome to Growing Indoors with the Eco Garden House. I'm Joy Baird. When you're growing in the Eco Garden House, as you see, we've got a number of different types of plants here. We've got sweet potatoes, cucumbers, basil, tomatoes, and lettuce, zucchini plant, peppers, other things here. You want as much production out of your plants as possible. We've touched on this in an earlier episode. So if the plants are not producing as rapidly as you would like them to or think they should because they may have a disease or a bug has got into it because of the soil you're using, that can all happen. What you can do is, for the instance of tomatoes, we had a lull in the tomatoes. We had a whole bunch, you saw in a previous episode, a whole bunch of tomatoes we harvested, and we picked the plants clean. So one thing you can do in your Eco Garden House is stress the plants out. This is very a good practice for tomatoes in the outdoor garden as well as the indoor garden. I'll explain why. Tomatoes are happy, just like you're happy with water and you get hydrated, everything's fine, you feel good. With the plants, that's the same thing. The plants are fully hydrated. They see no need to really rush any fruit production whatsoever. But as soon as you cut the water off, the soil starts drying up and they start getting stressed because their goal as a plant is to produce fruit, which contains seeds, to drop in nature, to go on the ground, to be there for the next spring to carry on the traits of the tomatoes, peppers, etc., whatever you're growing. That's the intentions of these plants. Their intentions are not to feed you and I. So what we did was we cut the water off for about a week. We did monitor other plants here, and with that cutting the water off, we had an abundance of flowers emerge. Here are just some clusters of flowers. This is off of, I think it's the Roma. There's one there. You can see the flowers developing there. Another tomato there. This here's got a whole cluster. We got some cherries there. I believe that is part of the black crim in the back. And it goes on with the stress of the tomatoes going to flower. Now, once we got the flowers to emerge, or the tomato to put the flowers on, we immediately put water back to the plant. From the time the flower emerges to the time you actually can pick the fruit, just like we're going to pick this yellow plum here, is approximately 30 days, 20 to 30 days, based on the variety and the size that the fruit is going to get. So that worked very well with the stressing the plants. Now, the opposite effect is such for the basil here, and we can fix this, but you can see the basil, and I'll pinch this off, the basil will begin to put flowers on, and that is the seeds. The plant's going through its cycle, it's getting stressed, no water, it immediately starts putting flowers on, and then the plant will die back. One way you can slow the process down is as soon as you see this portion of the plant begin to develop almost like a bud there, you can just go ahead and pinch it off. You can use the leaves, pinch it off, and it's going to put the plant back into a production state instead of a stress state, and be sure you water it. So with that being said, things are going well on the tomato side. We've also rearranged the Eco Garden House to get more light to certain plants and allow other plants to grow. Now we've got the light raised up here just so you can see better in here. We do have the pickling cucumber in the back, and I've actually allowed it to grasp onto the cable that runs the side lights here. Not a big concern because there's not going to be a tremendous amount of weight on it, as well as I have strung up some string here of my own, and it is grasping onto that as well. You can see a number of pickling cucumbers. Now, with the pickling cucumbers and a lot of these non-self-pollinating plants, we go in and we find a flower, typically a female or a male flower, to fertilize the female flower, which is connected to the fruit. This here is the female flower. So those, I've gone through, I found a female or a male flower, and that would be this here. I'll show you I'm going to pop it off. That's the male flower. There's no fruit behind it. Female flowers have the fruit, the flower and then the fruit. So what you'll do in this instance is take a paintbrush, Q-tip, you're going to actually rub the flowers together, and you're going to pollinate any of these flowers that are open, and just like bees would in nature. And then you keep the water to the plant, and you can see at the very top there, I've got a number of them. I'll get in here once the light's down. And these flowers here on the female flowers, once they're pollinated, at a certain point they're going to fall off, and that one's about ready to there. I'm not going to assist it anymore. But you're taking pollen, mating the plants, just like the bees would, so we can develop pickles or cucumbers that we can turn into pickles. Now, with that being said, plant some cilantro in our hydroponic system. So with a hydroponic system, hydroponic is using water as the medium to grow plants. Aquaponics is the process of fish in a reservoir and using the water that the fish are swimming in that contains their waste and pumping it through to allow the roots to take up the nutrients that the fish extract. So we're doing hydroponics, which is a water reservoir that gets pumped up into this ring and goes through these clay pellets here, clay balls. Now, if you remember in a previous episode and from other episodes, we had some Swiss chard planted in here, and it was doing okay. And this is a challenge that some gardeners, and we face it at times as well, as the seeds are not as viable as we hoped them to be. Meaning that the Swiss chard, some of it came up very, very well, and others just kind of grew a little bit, and it just kind of didn't do any more. We do have good nutrients in this hydroponic system. What we have found, we were using a lot of older seeds, and Swiss chard is one of those seeds that's is really more. Swiss chard is one of those seeds that is best used at about 2 years and less, 0 to 2 years. And some of that that we were using was 4, 5 years old because we are seed addicts and we just keep collecting seeds. So we used it all up and we just didn't get that growth that we wanted to. And with this production that the food that we're trying to produce out of the Eco Garden House, our goal is, if it's not growing good, get it out, put something else in that will do much better. So we're going to plant some cilantro in here. And again, you really don't have to do much. You can use different types of nutrients in order to feed the plants, but simply what I'm going to do here, and this hydroponic system works good on lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard, peppers, any type of vegetable or fruit that you want to grow. And this is what cilantro seeds look like. It is coriander. It is coriander, same stuff you cook with. Do you want to go in the kitchen and grab your coriander shaker and bring it in here and plant? Well, you can, based on what type of or where you got the seeds from. Sometimes the manufacturer of the cooking coriander treats the seeds or heat treats them so they don't germinate. So you might not get any growth on that. So just keep that in mind. If you get it from an organic store, you might be able to go ahead and substitute buying seeds from just going in your kitchen and getting some, and this will grow into cilantro. And it's very simple to do. We're just going to take, and I'm just going to go back and forth and cover fairly decent. Now we want to get as much in this as possible, but we don't want to overcrowd. We talk about intensive gardening, but we don't want to talk about growing everything there's no room for expansion on the plant. So I'm just going to take and get a few more here. And that's good. Now what I'm going to do here, in order to get the seeds down a little bit, just going to shake, allow them to fall through the pebbles, and then I'll plug it in, and what happens is, and it will run consistently, the water will go through, it doesn't flood the seed, it gives the seed the nutrients from the reservoir that you've put in, and then the seed begins to grow. And with different individuals who are expertise in hydroponics and aquaponics, the rate of seed to harvest is much, much quicker than in traditional ground. Thanks for joining me. Join me next time for more Growing in the Eco Garden House. I'm Joy Baird.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.